Hare Krishna, Namaste, Chapter 17, which is entitled as Shraddha Tri-vidho Yoga, the three types of faith. Sloka 7. āhāras sarvasya tri-vidho bhavati priyaḥ yajñas tapas tathā dānaṁ teṣāṁ bhedam imaṁ śṛṇu. We learned that in the previous two slokas, Krishna gave a direct answer to Arjuna's question. The question, if one does their dharma with complete faith but doesn't follow the scripture, doesn't have faith in the scripture, or does things which is not in the scripture, but with complete faith in what they are doing, what will they get? What will be their state? Do they abide in sattva-guna, in rajoguna, or in tamoguna? Krishna responds to that question in the previous two slokas 5 and 6 as that when someone does things which are not as per Shastra, it is not called dharma. Arjuna, you should understand, that is named as adharma. Dharma means that which abides as per the Shastra. Any tapas, dānaṁ, yajñas, yajñas, homa, etc. done by oneself against the scripture with their own ideas, that's not considered to be even tapas, dānaṁ, yajñas, yajñas and homa. Even if they do terrifying tapas, severe tapas, which can even put their body into difficult conditions, it doesn't matter. They get bad result. They get no benefit out of it because they are not recommended in the Shastra, because they don't have faith in the Shastra, or they don't want to follow the Shastra. They want to have their own program, wrongly thinking that will benefit them. After answering Arjuna's question, Krishna felt that Arjuna may be interested to hear more on this topic, the topic that deals with various items that falls into threefold character, sattva, rajas and tamas. So Krishna desired to explain this division as applied to yaga, tapas, dāna, etc. as it is enjoined in the scriptures. With that in view, Krishna first speaks about three kinds of food. It is quite interesting to see that Krishna starts with food rather than talking about three kinds of yaga, three kinds of tapas, three kinds of dāna. He picks food as the first item. Why does Krishna speak about the desire-driven food first? This is because it is the food which causes the changes in sattva, rajas and tamo gunas. It is vital to know the differences in the character of the food. There are many statements in the scripture which declares that food plays a major role in one's consciousness. Chandogya Upanishad says, Annamayam hi saumya manaha. The state of mind changes according to the kind of food one eats. In simple terms, mind is essentially formed by the food that we intake. Whatever food we take, that's how the mind takes its form. Here, āhāra means food. That it doesn't only mean the solid food, it also includes other kinds of things that goes into our mouth. namely drinks and any other substances that we consume into our body. All that are āhāra. These things are āhāra for our mouth, but there are also āhāra for the eyes, nose, ears, and our skin. The eyes consume forms, beautiful forms. The nose consumes smell. The ear consumes sound. And the skin consumes the touch. So it is said they are respective āhāra, food for those senses. The āhāra that's mentioned here is about that we consume through our mouth. Why do we eat? To build this body and subtle tissues and make this body, which is a vehicle, to function and become an instrument for us to do certain activities that we wanted in this world. So it is said, you are what you eat. As they say, you are whom you associate with. And that statement certainly, without doubt, has complete truth in it. It is also said in the Shastra that if only the food is pure, Sattva Guna will grow. In Chandogya Upanishad, when the father Uddalaka teaches to his son Swetaketu that Annamayam hi Saumya Manaha, that is, my dear boy, the mind is essentially formed of food, and Apomaya Pranaha, the prana is essentially formed of water. Tejomayi Vak iti, speech is essentially formed of fire. And the boy, Swetaketu, said, it's very difficult for me to understand what you're saying. Can you kindly clarify this? You're saying that I'm simply made of food? This is quite strange. Then the father explains that the substance of the food is composed of three elements. The gross part of the food is used to build the hard tissues such as bone, teeth, hair, nails, etc. Whereas the excess material is eliminated as waste, and in the process it also carries all other impurities out from the system. Whereas the nutritious component present in the food becomes flesh, blood, the fluid in the body, the marrow, and other tissues, while the subtle component becomes breath, prana, mental substance, manas, and speech, vak. It's like when the yogurt curd is churned, it produces butter. The butter is the essential part of the milk through the process of churning. And this is what happens to the food that we consume. It is churned inside by the forces of our body, and the essential part of the food then rises up into the structure of the psychological organ. It becomes the essence of our thinking process. It becomes the mind. So, the mind starts functioning by means of the churning of the food through the action of the forces of the body. To illustrate this, Father Uddalaka asked his son to do an experiment by fasting, that is abstaining from food for some period, while just drinking water to support the prana. And the son, Swetaketu, did fast and then returned back to his father, saying it was very difficult to remember whatever he has learned during that time, because the fire of the mind had been reduced therefore not able to function as he used to before while he was eating. And then later he took some food, he felt happiness and strength of mind returning. Likewise, in Taittiriya Upanishad, in Bhrihuvalli, Varuna Deva speaks to his son Bhrihu, stating, Annam Parabrahma Swarupam. Food is Brahman itself. Then he goes further saying that food, prana, sight, hearing, mind and speech are the means by which one can know the absolute truth, Brahman. Therefore, one should not consider food to be something cheap. One should never disrespect food. One should never waste food. Because Annam Parabrahma Swarupam. Food is Brahman. Kindly apply and understand the context in which we are talking here. Do not take this to be that there is no God as such. It is only food which is God. That is not the message here. It is to make us understand through the scriptural quotations that how food plays a major role in one's life, how important it is to have food, how much respect we have to give to the food. Food is prana, and the body consumes food to feed the prana. Therefore, both the body and prana are of food. This is as per Taittiriya Upanishad. The same Upanishad also says that one must take vow, take responsibility to never throw away food. One must observe the vow to produce an abundance of food. Annam bahu kurvita tad vritam. Why? Food is prosperity. We produce more food for what purpose? Not to store it to ourselves, but to give food to anyone and everyone who needs it. It is important we give to people who needs it, not to those who already has it, because they are going to waste it. The scripture also says one who does like that gets respect and also enough of cooked food in his old age. Of course, we also learn that we should not expect any reward by our action, but the Shastra says so. Irrespective of whether you expect or you don't respect, this will be the reward. Also it is said in the Vedas, Ahamannam, 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 Ahamannadaha, Ahamannadaha, Ahamannadaha. That is, I am food, I am the food, I am the food, who will be enjoyed by the Supreme Lord for His pleasure. And there is another statement in Taittiriya Upanishad which says that Annat vai praja prajayante. From food all living beings are born on this earth. They live by food and at the end they enter into food grain and become food again. Not only that, in the 3rd chapter we saw Annad bhavati bhutani prajanyat anna sambhavaha. All living bodies sustain on food grains which are produced from rains. So there are a lot more quotations. The basic message is that we should know food plays a major role in our life and it directly impacts our consciousness, our mind and our body. Therefore, it is important to know what type of food that we intake. That is what is going to be us. Sattvika food, āhāra, helps one's mind to function in sattvika guna. Rajasa āhāra helps one, it doesn't help, I'm sorry, but makes the mind to function in rajasa guna. Whereas the tamasa āhāra makes the mind to function in tamasa guna. And that's where one's ruchi goes. And that's where one's shraddha increases, respectively. In our next session, we'll learn how the food plays a major role in impacting our consciousness. We have not covered the meaning of the sloka yet. This is just an introduction to what's coming up. That will be covered later. Namaste. Hare Krishna.